that movie, and spoiler alert, it ends with a closet full of my suits on fire!
Spoiler alert!
Spoilers!
Diana. Fighting does not make you a hero.
What if I promise to be careful? Just a shield, then.
Diana.
No sharp edges.
Be careful of mankind, Diana. They do not deserve you.
You've told me this story.
What's up, good looking?
This whole, how this all works.
How's my Wonder Woman doing today?
She's going back to work to do more wonderment.
Well, this show is not about us, Catherine.
No, it's not. It's really
Please
not.
don't give our audience images of our or glimpses into our real life here. Welcome to Spoiled with Mac and Catherine, Wonder Woman. So this is your water cooler conversation about what we've been watching and playing and pretty much just watching.
Yeah, it's just watching.
And today we're talking about Wonder Woman. This will be a spoilerific review of the new DC superhero movie based upon the legendary character of Diana Prince, Wonder Woman. So,
What was the name of the actress when we were younger that played the TV show?
Linda. Linda.
I
I think it was like
something.
Cher or Adele.
I just always remember that brown hair, black hair, like with the big
Wonder
like
Woman!
the princess kind of
Linda-
like
it's
tiara that she wore.
It's not Hamilton.
She wasn't buff in any way, and her
She was
all
just,
the kicks and stuff that she did,
was
like
just a
you're
good-looking woman.
It's not really gonna hurt anybody. I mean,
They were very like brain horn kicks.
most dudes would be able to just dodge out of the way of her kicks. I mean, really.
It was the 70s.
It
TV
was
show.
the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember I have glimpses of her like holding up a roller coaster, and I remember her spinning around. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I do remember the spinning thing, and she just was gorgeous, obviously.
Wonder Woman. So anyway, we just went to see Wonder Woman,
We did.
DC's newest effort to make a movie that actually pleases audiences. And did they do so?
I thought it was just fine.
Lots of other review shows that I listen to, they begin their conversations with some probing question that outlines.
They do, and it
so-
sounds like
so
they're reading it off a card. Do you have your card to read your probing questions?
Always.
to
Let me pull it out of my back of my pocket.
Okay,
Catherine.
go ahead.
In a nutshell, Marvel has done a fantastic job with bringing together these disparate pieces of the Marvel universe in a very crowd-pleasing way to give audiences not just the backstories, but fully fleshed out character, these portraits of these superheroes in a funny, engaging way that yet somehow they have emotional resonance, and so they're clicking with audiences on they're firing on all these cylinders. DC has had a harder time doing that. Zack Snyder has sort of been the mastermind behind all of these super gritty, dark pieces about Batman and Superman, and they all look the same, and they're all joyless. And or complete misfires before Zack Snyder came along, like the Green Lantern. So, Catherine, I ask you again, did DC finally rise above that gritty, super dark stuff to make a movie that not just makes money, but actually makes people happy?
To a certain extent, I say yes. To a certain extent. I have not seen all the DC movies. I did watch the first Superman reboot. The reboot of a reboot. So what was that, like 4 or 5 years ago?
Man of Steel?
With Henry Cavill, who I just like to watch on screen, quite honestly.
Me too. I'd make out with him.
He's quite attractive.
He's a good-looking dude,
So
and he speaks like this.
What I do think they did well in this one is there wasn't this mass murder of humanity at the end caused by these characters who are supposedly supposed to be defending humanity.
They didn't run out of stuff to smash and then go up into space and smash some stuff.
No, they
Come
didn't
back
do
down.
that. And they set the story in an era in which humanity is basically doing it to itself. It's World War One, it's destroying itself. So
Well, even that, like the scale of destruction is much lower in general. It's
Yeah.
not just that man's already doing it. It's that there are not cities being destroyed here.
no,
Skyscrapers are not tumbling.
no. It's a very narrow story, and it just focuses on this one character. It doesn't try. You don't feel like you're trying to explain the a whole universe of emotions for all these people, for all these superheroes. Do you want I found myself uninterested through part of the movie. I was just like, okay, I was kind of with Jude. Of course, I was sitting next to Jude, our 8-year-old was with us when we watched the movie, and he kept rocking back in his chair like this. He was right next to me, and he kept saying, when's the next action going to happen? That was Jude's question.
Really?
Yeah. So I think he was very taken in by the action sequences, which I thought were really great.
I thought they were too.
They were wonderful, but there was a lot of talky, kind of uninteresting stuff in between. Chris Pine was fabulous, as he just is. He's just really great to watch.
Beautiful fish face.
I mean,
Scott.
he's not, I'll be honest with you, he's not the most attractive of all the Chris's who play Steves in superhero movies.
Plays Steve?
Yeah, Chris Evans plays Steve Rogers. This is Chris Pine, who plays Steve Trevor, I think is his name.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there's a couple more. But he's not the most attractive of all of them, but he is very charismatic, and he's very believable on screen. And so I enjoyed watching him.
He's very flustered this entire movie. He's
Yeah.
very frustrated with not being able to do what he's very, very focused on one thing.
Yeah.
He's got to get this book to the British High Command so that they can stop the war. And then when they don't do it, he wants to stop the war.
Yeah.
If he does this one thing, he thinks he can save millions of lives. And it never really explains why he's so hell-bent on doing that, except that he's a good guy. There is a throwaway line at the end that says, my dad said, when you see something that's not right, you can either do nothing or you can do something. And I tried doing nothing. So it kind of speaks to mistakes made in the past, which I call it a throwaway line. I guess I would want more than that, but it is a very economical way of adding a little heft behind this guy's motives.
But you just said something that's really important. You said he tries to be a good man. Yeah. I think most of the men that were sent off to those wars or took themselves into those wars, they weren't in charge. They weren't making decisions. And they make a point about this, about generals just sitting in rooms, making decisions from boardrooms, which is a good point. But most of these men were just trying to do the right thing. And he's a man trying to do the right thing. And I think he actually is a great character. And he really is trying to do the right thing, moment by moment. And you feel like his character stays true to that mission. Diana, her motives and her mission are kind of muddy.
Well, no. Her motive is to destroy Ares.
Yeah, but
She wants to kill Ares.
she talks about because she wants to end wars and stop violence. But she spends a lot of time killing people. A lot of time.
She wants to kill Ares and anybody in between her and Ares.
Even if they're just guys there doing their job. But if she's above all the fighting, in a sense, if she's above all this petty human bickering,
Well, now,
then
to be fair to her, those people weren't just shooting at her. They were,
shooting at the friends she was with.
What compels her to go over that into no man's land is that the enemy forces, the Germans, had taken this village.
Slaves, yeah.
And so she sees the suffering.
Sure.
And she's going to do something about that.
Right.
So I think we're being a little unfair to her when she says she's just going to kill anybody that gets in her way. Because she sees those people as doing something evil.
Yeah.
So she's going to stop them. And they are literally in between her and where she thinks Ares is.
They are, but I still say her high ideals are not as high as they purport to be.
I gotcha.
Okay.
Well, do you want
in the movie?
Do you want to jump to things we liked and disliked?
Yeah, let's do dislikes first.
Dislikes. So you go first.
No, you go first.
All right. There was too much Zack Snyder in this.
We just wish they would get rid of him and bring somebody else on board?
Yes, that is what we wish.
Okay.
I thought 300 was super cool to look at. I have some serious issues with its portrayal of masculinity, but it is a visionary film, and I think a little of it goes a long way. I am tired of seeing the scenes from 300 in my superhero movies. Okay,
gotcha.
And so although one of my likes about this movie is the action, one of my dislikes about the movie is how they interrupt the action in all of these scenes about 4 times with slow motion scenes to show you that these are actually people spinning around, but they're not really. You can't really do that with people.
Yeah.
There's got to be some special effects going on there. So the Zack Snyderisms, let's call them, the slow motion moments, that was a dislike for me.
Okay. I thought I was kind of taken out of the film right at the beginning. I thought some of the CG was kind of crappy.
Like on the island.
On the island.
It's not called mascara, but it's like something somewhere that
the
sounds
island
like
of mascara. That
island
sounds
of
good.
mascara.
We'll call it that from now on.
Paradise Island it was fan service going on there when he called it that. What?
Senetheris?
Our producer says it's Senetheris. Okay.
So
it's mascara.
I was kind of like, what? This movie has millions and millions of dollars at its disposal. Mm-hmm. I should never be taken out. I mean, I've seen movies.
People need to look like they're there.
Yes, I've seen movies where the budget was a quarter of what this movie's budget was. Mm-hmm. Who did CG better than this movie did in some moments where you just go, oh, look, there's an animated character doing what's supposed to be a real life character. Mm-hmm. So that bugged me, but that really only happened in the first few minutes when there was stuff on the island. But after that, they got a little bit better.
There was one moment in a very, very cool scene when she was lassoing people in the middle of that German courtyard, the village. Mm-hmm. So it's not a German village, but it's a village on the front. Yeah. And where she was lassoing people, and she was just kicking ass left and right. And there was a little moment of Neo fighting the 99 Agent Smiths going on there, where I thought they did a great job the rest of the movie, me not even thinking about that. But, I mean, it was just a glimpse. That somebody had spent 15 more minutes on that.
It's just like, it just pulls you out just for a second.
It does. It does. And at the same time, at that moment, I was thinking, man, if I was a little girl seeing this, it would inspire me to go kick some ass. Yeah. In a big way. All right. Okay, so
another dislike for you.
Another dislike. The many shouty conversations had by Chris Pine in Wonder Woman, where he just gets in her face and goes, no, you just gotta, no, we have to, no, they do that like 3 times. Where she's just talking 90 miles an hour and he's talking 90 miles an hour. And I don't know if that's supposed to be like a throwback to sort of screwball comedy stuff and lighten it up. Mm-hmm. But I just want to tell them both to shut up.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the problem is this laser beam focus thing that Chris Pine is doing. And it's Diana being a strong woman, but they just both come off as hard to take them both seriously at that moment.
Things I disliked.
And poor writing. I guess it's poor writing, really.
Yeah. I don't know anything. I mean, again, it was just kind of.
I can go again if you'd like.
And you call it like kind of a MacGuffin sometimes. It's just something to put in there to move people along. But, you know, the gas and the Ares character at the end, you know, because you're always. You as an audience know that the guy, the German general, is not Ares, and you don't know that it's Lupin from Harry Potter. You don't know that he's actually Ares, but him at the end, I thought
it is very difficult to take that actor seriously as a menacing, physically menacing bad guy.
Why did they leave the mustache at the very end? He shouldn't have had the mustache anymore.
Yeah, I think concept artists should have come up with a way
to like make him look younger.
Enough of him to be that actor, but not have some of the distinctive characteristics that are hard to take him seriously.
Because like Ares, I mean the mustache is a very.
There was one scene where it showed him younger.
Yeah.
Down, like in prison.
Exactly, and if they had taken that and just sort of, I mean,
he had the mustache when it showed him.
I don't know. It didn't look. It wasn't great.
Roll the film. Roll the footage.
But my point is, like, by the time we got to the end, I don't know. I didn't care.
Okay, so that's my third point, is that the movie makes the mistake of going super big right at the end. And even though
They didn't
on a
knock
scale,
down skyscrapers or destroy London.
Right, but there's just too many stupid explosions happening at that.
They're throwing
German
tanks at
airbase.
each other.
And it just becomes these super powerful beings
Why don't they just fly
that
away?
can't kill each other. And his bringing in armor around him from all, I didn't particularly care for it, and I did not care. Like, how come all of a sudden he can just strangle her with this metal when before he was literally throwing tanks on top of her head, and that doesn't hurt her?
That was fine. Well, because, and we've talked about this before, and not every Marvel movie is great, but there's one particular Marvel movie at the end. I don't want to spoil it because it's not the spoiled version of that movie, but there's one particular Marvel movie that at the end we go from big, we go from these big action scenes with all the Marvel characters in the middle of the movie to by the end you've literally got two Marvel characters fighting each other, and the stakes feel very real.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the end of that, and it's dumb right now, but I'm thinking about that scene in that movie. I'm getting emotional because by the end, I mean, I've watched that movie.
Because you care about both of those people.
You care about both of those people because you've watched them through like 10 different movies.
But at no moment in Wonder Woman do you
feel that
Wonder
way?
Woman is in danger of dying.
No.
And now I thought it was particularly brave to kill off Chris Pine. I thought it was a good move on the writer's part. You tend to hate that move.
No,
I tend to love that
in
move.
this particular thing, it was a very sacrificial act. It did not feel pandering. It didn't feel like they just needed a way to end the movie. It felt like it felt like a completion of his story. He's a good man. He's been a good man, or he's a man trying to be a good man.
Well, and it's a very quick way to add heft to her story, because anybody that's everything's gone great for, it's hard to care about that person.
Yeah.
But someone who's had true heartache, then you automatically care for them.
Maybe what I really, and I don't know that Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot. Maybe, I mean, she was really cute as the sort of the wide-eyed innocent.
Right.
Those parts were very interesting, but towards the end of the movie where you kind of, I mean, Chris Pine, you felt this maturity of emotion from him.
Well, she has a crisis of faith toward the end of the movie.
Yeah, and she finally sort of comes around, but you don't necessarily, I mean, except in a very childlike way, she loves this guy, but you don't feel, I mean, she's just so childlike. It's hard to take her feelings for him super serious.
Also, at no point did I ever feel like she was going to stay disillusioned.
No.
Like, when she starts thinking about humanity really doesn't deserve, at no point did I think, oh, this character really could go down the tubes.
Yeah, no, you know she's
and not
going to
just
come
because
around.
I've literally seen her in another movie.
So with Chris Pine's character,
100 years later.
Yeah, with Chris Pine's character, you feel like there's real stakes, but with her character, you feel there are less of stakes. The other thing is, she, as this little girl, this wide-eyed little girl, has always thought that she just was made out of clay. But did she know Zeus was her dad, that she was a god?
No, she did not. Oh, well, apparently, she didn't know that she was a demigod.
Like, there should have been more of like
a realization,
like a moment.
Holy crap.
Because they make such a big deal out of not telling her that. Like, we got to keep that from her. We got to keep that from her.
And she should be upset at her mother for leaving this detail out.
I really think for character development, there should have been more of a moment where she just had some sort of emotional kind of breakdown about that. Like, oh my gosh, I was kept on this island and this was kept from me, and I'm stronger than I think I am, and I do have a father. Like all those things I think were kind of missing. I think they tried to do that at the end. And there was a little bit of that moment, like we talked about, that where she, like when Steve was first talking to her, she couldn't understand him, and then all of a sudden it hit her. I mean, like that he does love her, but that's what he was trying to say. But again, there's just this sort of lack of weightiness to some of that I just think it was more in the writing and the telling of the story than I think it could have been there, and it wasn't there for me. So.
Yes. Okay, so things we liked.
Okay.
Gal Gadot is great. She is super charismatic.
She is.
She
as Wonder Woman. She fits the part very
looks
well.
like she's having a great time. She's not difficult to look at.
She's strong without being like ripped like a.
She's not Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2.
No.
She doesn't have like Madonna arms.
No, she looks like a real woman who also happens to be a strong woman, and who you believe because of how tall she is and just her physicality. She's both sexy, in a very feminine way. When she's wearing women's clothing, she's very feminine. But she's also, you believe her in these moments where she has to, like you said, kick some butt. You believe that she could do it.
She's got this way of standing, like with her arms back. And chest, I guess the chest is naturally thrusted. It doesn't look like she's trying to thrust her chest out in a sexy way. But she's got her arms kind of held back.
She always kind of looks like she's springy, like ready to spring into action.
And it makes her look super tough.
Yeah. The banter just right off the bat from her and Chris Pine, I thought was wonderful.
Me too. I thought they had great chemistry.
Super cute.
I just wish they wouldn't yell at each other face to face so much.
But I mean, besides that, I mean, just the banter between them, where she's very innocent of men, and he's both sort of recognizing her innocence, which I thought they did a good job with that. He didn't just like dive in. They had his character be smart enough to recognize the innocence of this woman,
right,
and try not to take advantage of that.
What I thought was funny, and sort of it's not truly ironic, but we can apply the term here. Is what they do with this character is they do not over sexualize her, and for a moment they do him.
Yeah.
There's really narratively, there's no good reason to show us Chris Pine completely naked, except lacking
holding on to himself to cover himself.
Right. But they do that with a male character.
It's a table turner.
It's a table turner.
So, and that's fine. I can appreciate that. I didn't feel that this was a morality tale. I didn't feel like Hollywood was trying to level some agenda at me.
Right. It
I really didn't.
It was refreshingly free from overt feminist statements.
Yeah.
And Lord knows the press has done enough of those around this film.
But like if the movie's good, it speaks
you.
for itself. You don't need to make all these big statements. I mean, you just make a good story.
Like I was truly surprised that no Englishmen in the trenches were going, "Good Lord, a woman in the trenches? What is the world coming to?" Except, I mean, they did that a little bit in the war room. But that seems like a natural thing that would happen.
Absolutely.
Those stodgy old men would do that.
Yeah, in that particular setting.
So the other thing I liked about the movie was the action was fantastic. I thought it was well filmed, it was well executed. That scene where she jumps up into the second story building and takes out like 8 German dudes at one time, where they start doing the I thought it was great. I could watch that scene again and again and again. Super sliding across the room.
The scene on the beach when the Amazonians come on the Germans and just,
it was a little too balletic for me.
And I don't know. See, I kind of like that about it, because
it's a feminine
style of fighting. You're talking about how would a bunch of women fight differently than men? These are still very strong, very smart, very they're shooting precisely. Some of them die because you're talking about guns against arrows, but their training and their strength pays off. In the fact that they fight well, they fight for each other, they fight sacrificially, which is really always beautiful to see. I think that her aunt steps in front of the bullet for her. It's a beautiful scene. But I just thought that I enjoyed that scene on the beach. I mean, you're talking about horses against, it's sort of a classic World War I kind of thing,
right? Because
in World War I we saw the end of cavalry in
the film War Horse.
Yes.
It shows you a very heavy-handed scene of that very thing.
But so we kind of get to see that. We get to see people on horses fighting Germans with not tanks, but
Machine guns.
heavy machine guns and artillery, and see that you can still win in close combat once you're right up next to each other. It's really about strength and skill. I loved it.
Jude made the comment in the bathroom right afterwards. He said, there was a lot of violence, but there was no blood. I don't remember any blood.
I don't remember any blood either.
Aside from her little scratch on her arm.
That's right.
All right, so the last thing I liked about it was simply fun. It was a fun movie. All right, it wasn't too...
I don't know that I'd put simply fun in there.
Well, okay, you're right. It was fun and lighthearted compared to
Yes.
the long slog that was Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so out a scale of 1 to 5, balletic leaps off of a horse into battle. How many of those would you give this?
3.5.
3.5. Mm-hmm. Based upon the I don't know now. I don't know. I hate to go along with you.
Don't go along with me. You enjoyed it, I think, more than I did.
I would almost give it 4 balletic leaps off of horses in the midst of battle.
Yeah.
Had it not been for this going big at the end where I didn't care.
Yeah.
And Professor Lupus making a terrible bad guy.
Well, Lupin.
That's what I said.
See, for me, it wasn't so much the end. By the end, I was excited to really have some action to watch. For me, it was the middle. I was just in the middle. I was like, okay, all right, cool, let's move on. Let's get. I wasn't really sure what I wanted them to get to.
Are you talking about getting to the front or like the campfire scene?
No, it wasn't even the campfire scene. I don't know. It was just I'm not exactly sure. I just know that somewhere in the middle there, I was kind of ready for things to get to whatever conclusion they were trying to get to.
Speaking of getting to a conclusion, we're going to end the show right now. If you would like to give us your opinion, we would absolutely love to hear it. And if you have any recommendations for future shows, we'd also love to hear that. You can reach us at
spoiled@macandkatherine.com.
If you like our show, you like our banter, you like, for some reason, us, you can catch our other show. It's called Catholic in a Small Town. You can find that on iTunes or other purveyors of podcasts.
We also do this as a podcast. I mean, for those of you watching on YouTube, we also do this as a podcast, so you can just listen to it if you don't have time to sit and watch. And again, you can find that Spoiled with Mac and Catherine on iTunes.
All right, guys, until we talk next time, go and get spoiled.